Hey friends, it's Jessica from Three Rivers Homestead, and I have another weekly video for you just kind of showing you what we were up to on the homestead. So there were a lot of exciting things happening here this week. We're going to start out in the garden on Sunday morning. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to harvest a few things for a very special day. We have a really good friend who lives up in Northeast Ohio, and he is a farmer. He's a third generation farmer, and he is who grows our pork for us. That's something we outsource because he has such a quality product that we just prefer to buy what he is selling versus growing it here. We like to support him that way. And he brings it to us and delivers it here in Northwest Ohio. We just order a trailer full of wonderful goodies from his farm, and that makes it worth his time to come here and bring it to us. And in exchange for his delivery, he doesn't charge us, and I make him a feast, and we can sit together and have fellowship and enjoy a meal. And so that's what I'm doing here to start out the day. I'm just harvesting a basket of goodies so that I can prepare a meal for him later on in the day. It's going to be an extremely busy day with all hands on deck. All of the children are going to be helping unloading. So before we get started, we're going to fuel up with a beautiful blueberry French toast casserole and some bacon. It is Sunday, so we're going to take some time before the busyness begins and sit down as a family and read the Word of God together and worship the Lord. This time is an anchor in our week as a family. We look forward to this every Sunday, just being together and reading God's Word. And even on a day that is going to be busy with other things happening, this is the priority of our week. So we made sure to get that time in together. We had a quick little bite of lunch, and then it was time to start preparing for our friend to come and deliver all of our goodies. He is also on this day going to be delivering two beef heifer calves for us. So we raise our own beef here on the homestead, and how we choose to do that is we purchase weaned calves from various sources, and this friend is one of the sources we've purchased from before. We went with a different source last year and had very bad results. We were sold sick calves and had 3 out of 4 of them die. And so we are back to purchasing these calves from our friend. We trust him to do that. And so we get the heifer calves when they're about 12 weeks old. They're weaned and ready to go out on pasture. They are typically a dairy and beef cross. On this particular year, we are getting a half Holstein, quarter Angus, and quarter Limousin uh, beef mix, and that is what we'll be raising out. So we typically get them when they're 12 weeks old. They will go out on pasture, and we like to raise them until they're somewhere between 18 to 20 months old. We typically time it so that they will only be here on the homestead for one winter. Because we live in Ohio, we do have to supplement with hay, usually from the months of November through maybe March or April. And so we just like to have them here one winter because that can be rather expensive. And then the rest of the year they eat for free just with the grass that is growing in our pastures. This is a really affordable way for us to raise beef here for our family. If we raise 2 of them, that's enough to last us through the year. And we are very excited. So, our friend Mason is here. He's all loaded up with all of our goodies. I can see the 2 cute little heifer calves in there. And so, we're going to start getting busy and getting to work unloading everything that is in this trailer. We're going to have to do some work before we can get the calves out. So, like I said, all the kids, all hands are on deck. We're going to get busy. First thing needing to be unloaded is the pork that Mason raised for us. We purchased 3 pigs from us. That's enough for our family for an entire year. So I'm just getting it into the freezer now before it begins to thaw. And then I'll have to go back here later on in the week and reorganize all of this. But for now, we're just getting it in as quick as possible. I have my helper Gracie here. The baby just woke up from her nap. She's watching her for me while the guys get the alleyway ready to unload some other things. The children really look forward to this day every year and seeing our friend Mason. He's kind of become a part of the family. He's a fixture that comes every year, and they're very excited. So at the back of the trailer, we have our straw. Mason grows all of this for us, and this is who we purchase our straw from. And we use straw as bedding in a lot of the chicken coops and things like that. I also use it in my garden as mulch. And so we get enough to get us through for the year. We do have a small barn here that has a hay loft. So this is where we keep our square bales of straw and hay, and they're stored up here for when we need to use them. Thankful to have two teenage boys and these men to help toss these up here and get them all stacked up. And while I'm coming out to film this here and there, I am busy in the kitchen cooking a feast that you'll see at the end of this video while they're all busy doing all of this work. So I'll pass the baby off to Grace to kind of hold her while I'm filming, and then I'll grab her and head back into the house and get back to the kitchen making our meal. So after they got the straw unloaded, it was time to get out our little heifer calves. So we've had several experiences with having to drag these calves who are not halter trained all the way across the property to the pastures. And last year we decided to build this little alleyway that is close to where we unload the calves. And with our trailer, our livestock trailer, we can back it right up to this gate here. So all we have to do is just open the back of the trailer and the calves can run out into the alley and get access to the pastures. But because Mason's trailer is a bit larger, it can't fit at the angle to get all the way up to the gate. So they are having to halter these calves and kind of pull them out of the trailer to get to the pasture. These calves have never been on grass before. They were raised in a barn in a more commercial farm setting. And so this is their first experience at freedom. And you can see that calf back there running. They are enjoying that freedom. It's a beautiful thing to see an animal experience a pasture for the first time. It's just one of the great pleasures of raising these animals is knowing that they're having a great life, a life of freedom, eating the best food possible, getting sunshine, and just being in a more natural setting for them. The alleyway attaches to this corral area right here. So we've shut them in with the gates into this area, and now we're just trying to move them out into the pasture. We do have two pastures. The steer that survived from last year is out on the other pasture with one of our livestock guardian dogs right now, and we're putting the two heifer calves in a separate pasture just to keep them safe for a while so that our steer, he's kind of feisty and we don't want him to accidentally hurt the babies here. We let the children name all of the animals that come on the homestead, and so they have chosen the names Miss Mamie and Miss Emily for these two heifer calves. You might know where those names come from. The children have watched the old TV series The Waltons many times, and I was asking them, we needed a set of names for two females, and for some reason those names popped into their heads. So this is Miss Emily and Miss Mamie. So we're going to let them kind of get used to the pasture and their newfound freedom and move on to the next task for the day. Mason also sells firewood, and like I said, to make it worth his time to deliver all of this down here to us, we go ahead and we purchase 1 cord of wood from him on top of all of these other things. And as you guys know, we heat exclusively with wood. In our house, we do not have a furnace for heat, so we need a lot of wood to get us through the winter. And while Adam will be hard at work chopping, splitting up a lot of wood himself, we love having this supplemental wood that we purchase from Mason. It's just a little less work that Adam has to do, and it's nice to get a start on this year's wood pile. This is probably the 6th year maybe that we have purchased from Mason in this way. And so the kids know the drill by now. They have the whole unloading and stacking the wood situation down to a science. My second son, David, who is 14, he is our wood pile stacking foreman. And we set him up over by the pile, and he directs all of the little children and tells them exactly what to do and where they need to put the wood. And he does such a great job. These children, as soon as they'll dump a load of wood in here into a pile, they will have that wood stacked up and put away in no time at all, because David here is just making sure everybody is doing exactly what they need to do. So we're starting out with the wheelbarrow just because Mason is having some issues with his throat and he can't speak very loudly right now. And we didn't want the sound of the tractor to make too much noise while the men were trying to catch up and have a little conversation while we're working with the wood. And eventually we're going to move to using the tractor just to save a little bit of effort. But it's good for the kids to get a little exercise and work in. As I mentioned, I'm making my way while holding the baby to the kitchen. I'm going out and checking on the calves here, heading over to see if anyone needs any water or anything. I am just running around and getting my workout in a little bit of a different way. Miss Mamie and Miss Emily here are getting used to all of the sounds here. A motorcycle went by here and scared them, and they're running around like little puppies in the pasture. It's a wonderful thing. Here's one of our pasture roosters. They help with the management of the manure by spreading that for us so that it doesn't accumulate in different areas. And I just love seeing new life here on the homestead. We're really going to enjoy Miss Mamie and Miss Emily while they are in our care. So as I mentioned, it's time now to start working a little more efficiently. The men are done catching up with their talking, so they turned on the tractor engine and they're loading that up to do loads and bring that back over for the kids to continue stacking. We, in a winter here in Northwest Ohio, will typically go through about 5 cords of wood. That's in an average winter. And that's with burning not just a wood stove inside of our house, but Adam also has a wood stove in his garage slash workshop. So the 5 cords of wood in a typical winter here will be enough. We have had winters where it's gone a little long and we've needed a little extra, but that will typically get the job done. So we're nearing now the end of our work. After they got the wood stacked, there was some hay. We typically buy round bales of hay for the winter for our cattle, but we do like to purchase some square bales just to have on hand. Now everybody's all finished up. I've been busy working inside in the kitchen, and I'm going to show you here the meal that I was able to put together while the men were working. So we have homemade coleslaw here, some steamed green beans, a fruit salad. We have a blueberry pie. I made grilled chicken legs. We have some cupcakes here with a buttercream frosting. We have zucchini pie, broccoli salad, and potato salad. And most of these veggies, except for the broccoli and the cabbage, it was all homegrown veggies. So that was really exciting to share some of our homegrown food with Mason here. I also forgot I had some deviled eggs that I had made. Everybody can have one of those with their meal. Really exciting. We made some homemade lemonade, and everybody is enjoying the feast that they get for all of their hard work that they did. It really took a team to get all of that work done, and we sure appreciate our friend Mason bringing down all of these things that will help us grow food for our family in the coming year. Speaking of growing food for the coming year, it is time to start thinking about the fall garden. So I thought I would take you guys through some of the tasks that I was up to in the garden this week in preparation for some planting that I'm going to be doing here in the coming weeks. So the first thing that I need to start, I told you that cabbage and broccoli wasn't mine because I don't grow it in the spring. I wait until the fall to grow cabbage and broccoli, and I'm going to be starting those seeds today. So I don't direct sow my brassicas in the fall into the garden beds. I start them in seed starting trays like this with a little bit of potting mix, and I do that for a few reasons. First of all, the beds that these are going to be going into are not yet harvested yet at this point, and so I need the garden bed space to finish growing what is already there. So I will start these seeds separately and then transplant them later on once the beds are cleared out. I also find that some of these brassicas, if it's too hot out, they won't thrive outside. So having them in the separate seed trays means I can bring them inside in cooler temps if I need to get them to germinate. I also have another tray here of pots that I'm filling with soil, and these are going to be for propagating strawberry plants. So I've done an entire video on how I propagate strawberry plants before. I'll link it in the video description for you, but let me kind of give you a brief overview. This is a new strawberry bed mixed with some weeds and green bean plants, and this is what's called a strawberry runner. So if my plants were planted in the ground, these runners would be coming out off of the sides of the plants, and at the bottom of a set of leaves here, where I'm kind of showing you, roots would grow, and those would root down into the soil, and a new plant would grow off of that original mother plant. But since these are dangling off of the sides of the raised beds, I need to put them in some soil in order to start producing those roots. And so that's what those extra pots were for. I'm going to show you here in a minute what that looks like. Here you go. I took the runners and I'm just putting them in soil. They will eventually make roots, and then I can snip them apart from the mother plant. And then next year I can make a new bed of strawberry plants from these. And this is how I will continue to grow more and more strawberry plants from my original set of strawberry plants. These little moths that you see flying around, these white ones, those are cabbage moths, and those are the reason I have yet to start brassicas. I find that there's less pest pressure in the fall for my brassicas, so if I let those moths kind of die off, then when I transplant my brassicas this fall, they won't be as much of a nuisance for me. Here in this bed, I am ripping out those radish pod plants. I've talked about these a lot this year in my gardening videos, and they have run their course. They have a few more pods on them that I'm going to harvest, and I have some that I'm leaving to go to seed to produce radish seed that I will be planting in another empty bed here for my fall garden. But for the most part, I'm ready to rip these out and start working on amending this bed and getting it ready for fall planting. So now that I've ripped out all of those plants, I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to harvest off of them any of the pods that are still immature and kind of soft. If you leave those pods on the plant for too long, they begin to get rather woody and the seeds inside them start to form and they get big and they're not as pleasant to eat. So any of the pods here that we are not going to be eating will go to the chickens and they will enjoy that food. And then, as I mentioned, I left some of them in the garden bed to fully mature. We'll let those seeds mature in the pod, and then I'll harvest those in probably another couple weeks, and I'll be ready to plant them for my fall batch of radishes. Miss Elizabeth here decided to join me in the garden, and I love it when she does that. Elizabeth is my one child that enjoys gardening probably more than any of the others, and so I find that she is usually the most eager to come volunteer and learn from me, and I just love that. I love sharing my passions and hobbies with my children, and whenever one of them takes an interest in something I'm doing, I just, can't help but get excited about it, and I just talk about it and hope that they're learning something and that someday in the future that information will be valuable when they want to plant their own garden. So besides cabbage and broccoli and radishes that I'll be planting in the fall garden, I will also be doing turnips. We're doing more carrots. I will do another set of lettuce. We will do another fall planting of peas. And that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm forgetting. I think that that's about it. In past years, I have done another planting of potatoes about this time of year. and I've had success with that, and I've harvested them in like late September, but I decided not to do that this year just with the bed space that I have. That isn't something that I'm going to do. So here's our little harvest that we had. We've been pulling baskets like this out of the garden just about daily, which is really exciting. And so that's about what we were up to this week, just turning garden goodies into good homegrown meals, getting lots of things stocked away from our friend Mason. And that's it. We'll be back next week with another video of everything happening on the homestead. In the meantime, I hope you have a blessed week, and we will talk to you later, friends.